The little girl sat on the examination table, swinging her legs back and forth, her patent leather shoes catching the afternoon light streaming through the window. Angela Torres adjusted her stethoscope and smiled at 6-year-old Sophie Mitchell, who had come to the nurse's office complaining of a tummy ache. But Angela knew better. In her 5 years as a school nurse, she had learned to read the signs. This wasn't about physical pain. "Sophie, sweetie, can you tell me what's really bothering you?" Angela asked gently, pulling up a small chair to sit at eye level with the child. Sophie's big brown eyes filled with tears. Her lower lip trembled. "Miss Angela, my daddy cries at night." Angela's heart clenched. She reached out and took the little girl's hand. "Oh, honey. He thinks I don't hear him, but I do. He sits in the living room after I go to bed and he looks at pictures of my mommy." Sophie wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "She went to heaven 3 years ago. Daddy says she's watching over us, but I think he misses her so much it makes his heart hurt." Angela felt her own eyes beginning to sting. She had heard about the Mitchell family. Everyone at Riverside Elementary knew about Cameron Mitchell, the successful restaurant owner who had lost his young wife to cancer. Teachers whispered about how he never missed a parent-teacher conference, how he volunteered for every field trip, how he was trying so hard to be both mother and father to his daughter. "Your daddy loves you very much," Angela said softly. "Sometimes grown-ups need time to feel sad. It's okay. But he's so lonely, Miss Angela." Sophie's voice cracked. "His birthday is next Saturday and I asked him if we could have a party. He said yes, but I know he's only doing it for me. All his friends are married with mommies and daddies together. And I thought—" She paused, looking down at her shoes. "I thought maybe you could come." Angela blinked. "Me? Sweetie, that's very kind, but—" "Please, Miss Angela." Sophie grabbed both of Angela's hands, her small fingers squeezing tight. "You're so nice. You smell like vanilla cookies. You always make me feel better when I'm scared. And I see how you help all the kids here. You have so much love in your heart." The little girl took a deep breath and then the words tumbled out in a rush. "My daddy is so lonely. Can you be my mummy at his birthday party?" The room went silent. Angela heard the clock on the wall ticking. She heard children laughing in the hallway. She heard her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. This was not a normal request. This was a child's desperate wish for her broken family to be whole again. This was a little girl who had lost her mother reaching out for someone, anyone, to fill that empty space. And she was reaching for Angela. "Sophie," Angela began, not sure what to say. "I know you're not really my mummy," Sophie said quickly. "I know my real mommy is in heaven. But just for one day, just for the party, could you pretend? Could you come and be there and maybe make my daddy smile? He never smiles anymore, Miss Angela." "Not really. But I think if you came, maybe he would remember how." Angela felt a lump forming in her throat. Every professional instinct told her this was crossing a line. She was the school nurse. Sophie was a student. There were boundaries, protocols, appropriate behaviors. She should gently decline, explain to Sophie that she couldn't attend, and maybe suggest the school counselor talk to the little girl about grief and loss. But then she looked into Sophie's eyes. Those hopeful, pleading, heartbroken eyes. And Angela thought about her own life. She was 32 years old, single, living in a small apartment with a cat named Buttons. She had dedicated her entire adult life to caring for other people's children while her own dreams of having a family seemed further away each year. Her mother called every Sunday asking when she would settle down. Her younger brother had just announced his wife was pregnant with their second child. And here was this beautiful little girl, asking for the simplest thing in the world. Asking for someone to show up. Asking for kindness. Asking for hope. "What time does the party start?" Angela heard herself say. Sophie's face transformed. The tears vanished, replaced by pure joy. "Really? You'll come? You'll really come?" "Yes, sweetie. I'll come." Angela smiled, even as her mind raced with questions about what she was getting herself into. "But you need to make sure it's okay with your daddy first. Can you do that?" "He'll say yes. I know he will." Sophie threw her arms around Angela's neck, hugging her tight. "Thank you, Miss Angela. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're going to love my daddy. He's the best daddy in the whole world. He makes the best spaghetti and he reads me stories every night and he lets me help at his restaurant on weekends. And maybe if you come to the party you'll see how nice he is, and then maybe you could come to dinner sometime, and then maybe—" "Let's just start with the party," Angela said gently, pulling back to look at Sophie's beaming face. "One step at a time, okay?" Sophie nodded eagerly. "One step at a time. That's what my daddy always says too." As Angela watched Sophie skip out of the nurse's office, her tummy ache apparently cured by hope alone, she sat back in her chair and took a deep breath. What had she just agreed to? She was going to a student's father's birthday party. She was stepping into a grieving family's life. She was opening a door that maybe should have stayed closed. But something in her heart told her this was right. This was why she had become a nurse in the first place. Not just to bandage scraped knees and check temperatures, but to heal hearts. To show up when people needed her most. To be the person who said yes when everyone else said no. Angela pulled out her phone and texted her best friend Nicole. "You won't believe what just happened. I need your advice." The response came immediately. "Coffee after work? You're buying." Angela smiled and typed back a quick agreement. She had a feeling she was going to need all the advice she could get. As the school day continued and more children filtered through her office with their various complaints and injuries, Angela's mind kept returning to Sophie's question. Can you be my mummy at his birthday party? Such a simple request. Such an impossible request. Such a beautiful, heartbreaking, hope-filled request. By the time the final bell rang and the last student had been picked up, Angela had made her decision. She was going to that party. She was going to meet Cameron Mitchell. She was going to show up for Sophie. And maybe, just maybe, something beautiful would come from this strange, unexpected invitation. Because if there was one thing Angela Torres believed in, it was that kindness always led somewhere good. Hope always opened doors. And love, real love, always found a way. Before we continue, I need to ask you something important. Have you ever been asked a question that completely changed your life? A question you couldn't ignore, no matter how complicated the answer might be? This story is about taking chances on unexpected invitations. If you've ever wondered whether saying yes to something scary could lead to something beautiful, please subscribe to this channel and comment below about a time you took a chance that changed everything. Let me know if you believe in hope the way Angela does. Angela sat across from Nicole at their favorite coffee shop, stirring her latte absently while her best friend stared at her with wide eyes. "Let me get this straight," Nicole said, leaning forward. "A 6-year-old asked you to be her mother at her father's birthday party, and you said yes? When you say it like that, it sounds crazy," Angela admitted. "Because it is crazy." Nicole took a sip of her cappuccino. "Also, it's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Tell me everything." Angela recounted the entire conversation with Sophie, watching as Nicole's expression softened from concern to understanding. Nicole had been her roommate in nursing school, the person who knew her better than anyone else. If anyone could help her navigate this situation, it was Nicole. "So what do you know about this Cameron Mitchell?" Nicole asked. "Not much. He owns 3 restaurants in the city. Everyone says he's a good father. Very involved at school. The teachers like him." Angela paused. "And he's been alone for 3 years raising Sophie by himself. Have you seen him?" "A few times. Drop off and pick up. He's always rushing, always looks tired. But he always has time to hug Sophie and ask about her day." Angela smiled at the memory. "Last week I saw him show up with her lunch because she forgot it at home. He had driven across town from his restaurant during the lunch rush just to bring it to her." Nicole nodded slowly. "Okay, so he's a good dad. That's important. But Angela, are you sure about this? You're stepping into something complicated here." "I know." Angela met her friend's eyes. "But Nicole, you should have seen Sophie's face. She was so hopeful. So desperate for her father to be happy again. How could I say no to that? Because you're a professional. Because there are boundaries. Because this could get messy." Nicole reached across the table and took Angela's hand. "But I also know you, Angela Torres. You've never met a person in need that you could turn away from. It's why you're an amazing nurse and why your apartment is full of thank you cards from grateful kids and parents." Angela felt tears prick her eyes. "I just keep thinking about what it must be like for Sophie. Growing up without a mother. Watching her father struggle alone. And she reached out to me. Of all people, she chose me. Because you're safe. You're kind. You make her feel cared for." Nicole squeezed her hand. "And honestly, maybe this is good for you too. When was the last time you went on a date? When was the last time you let someone take care of you?" "This isn't a date," Angela protested. "It's a child's birthday party." "It's a door opening," Nicole corrected. "Whether it leads to romance or just friendship or nothing at all, you won't know unless you walk through it." Over the next few days, Angela found herself thinking constantly about the upcoming party. She had called Cameron Mitchell to confirm that Sophie's invitation was genuine and that he was comfortable with her attending. The conversation had been brief but warm. "Miss Torres, I apologize for my daughter putting you in an awkward position," Cameron had said, his voice deep and slightly rough as if he hadn't slept well in days. You absolutely don't have to come. I can explain to Sophie that. I want to come, Angela had interrupted gently. Sophie is a special little girl, and I'd be honored to celebrate your birthday with your family. There had been a long pause. Then quietly, thank you. That means more than you know. Now, on Saturday morning, Angela stood in front of her closet trying to decide what to wear. She had bought a small gift, a book about famous chefs that Nicole had recommended. She had wrapped it in cheerful blue paper. She had rehearsed what she would say when she arrived. But she had no idea what to wear to a birthday party for a man she barely knew, hosted by a 6-year-old who wanted her to pretend to be her mother. She finally settled on a simple red dress, comfortable but nice, with a white cardigan. Professional but friendly. Not too formal, not too casual. She hoped. The address Sophie had given her led to a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood. The lawn was well maintained, and Angela could see colorful balloons tied to the mailbox. Her heart started beating faster as she parked her car and walked up the front path. Before she could even knock, the door flew open. Miss Angela. Sophie stood there in a pretty green dress, her hair in pigtails, beaming from ear to ear. You came. You really came. Daddy, she's here. Angela barely had time to register the interior of the house before she was pulled inside by an excited 6-year-old. The living room was decorated with streamers and balloons. A birthday banner hung over the fireplace. She could smell something delicious cooking in the kitchen. And then Cameron Mitchell walked into the room, and Angela's breath caught in her throat. He was taller than she had realized, with dark hair that was slightly too long, as if he kept meaning to get a haircut but never found the time. He wore jeans and a blue button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His eyes were gray, tired but kind. He had the look of a man who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders but refused to let it break him. Miss Torres, he said, extending his hand. Thank you for coming. I'm Cameron. Angela shook his hand, noting the calluses that spoke of hard work and the firm but gentle grip. Please call me Angela. Happy birthday. Thank you. He smiled, and Angela understood what Sophie meant. It was a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. A smile that was polite but not joyful. Can I get you something to drink? We have lemonade, iced tea, water. Lemonade sounds perfect. As Cameron headed to the kitchen, Sophie grabbed Angela's hand. Come see my room. I want to show you my stuffed animals. I have 23 of them. Angela laughed and let herself be led upstairs, feeling the warmth of the little girl's hand in hers. Sophie's room was exactly what she would have expected, painted in soft purple with white furniture. Stuffed animals covered the bed. Books filled a small bookshelf. Pictures decorated the walls. But what caught Angela's attention was a framed photograph on the nightstand. A beautiful woman with long dark hair and Sophie's same brown eyes smiled at the camera, holding a baby Sophie in her arms. That's my mommy, Sophie said softly, following Angela's gaze. Her name was Rachel. Daddy says I have her smile. You do, Angela agreed, her heart aching. She was beautiful. Daddy says she would be proud of me. That she's watching from heaven. Sophie picked up the photo and hugged it gently. Sometimes I talk to her at night. I tell her about school and my friends and how Daddy is doing. I think she can hear me. Angela knelt down beside Sophie. I think she can too. And I think she's very proud of you for taking such good care of your daddy. Sophie set the photo back carefully. That's why I asked you to come, Miss Angela. Because I can't take care of him the way a grown-up can. He needs someone who can help him smile for real again. Before Angela could respond, Cameron's voice called up the stairs. Girls, other guests are arriving. The party was small but warm. There was Cameron's business partner, Tom, with his wife and 2 kids. There was an older couple that Angela learned were Rachel's parents, Sophie's grandparents. There were a few friends from Cameron's restaurant. Everyone was kind, welcoming Angela without asking too many questions about who she was or why she was there. Sophie stayed close to Angela throughout the party, introducing her to everyone as Miss Angela, my favorite school nurse. She watched as Angela helped serve cake, as she laughed at Tom's terrible jokes, as she listened patiently to Rachel's mother talk about her volunteer work at the local animal shelter. And Cameron watched too. Angela could feel his eyes on her throughout the afternoon, assessing, wondering, maybe hoping. When it was time to open presents, Sophie insisted Angela sit next to Cameron. The little girl had clearly planned this, arranging the seating so that Angela would be right there, part of the family circle. Cameron opened his gifts with genuine appreciation. Tools from Tom. A nice watch from his in-laws. A homemade card from Sophie that made his eyes suspiciously bright. And then Angela's gift. He unwrapped the book slowly, reading the title. The Stories Behind Famous Restaurants, How Great Chefs Built Their Dreams. He looked up at her, surprised. This is perfect. How did you know I collect books about restaurant history? Angela smiled. A lucky guess. Sophie mentioned you love cooking and your restaurants, so I thought you might enjoy it. I will. He held her gaze for a moment longer than necessary. Thank you, Angela. Really? As the party wound down and guests began to leave, Angela started to gather her things. But Sophie grabbed her hand. Do you have to go? Can't you stay for dinner? Please? Daddy made his special lasagna this morning, and there's so much food left over. Angela looked at Cameron, not wanting to overstay her welcome. But he nodded. Please stay. If you don't have other plans. Sophie's right, there's plenty of food and it would be nice to have company. Angela thought about her empty apartment, about the frozen dinner waiting in her freezer, about Buttons the cat who would be fine for a few more hours. I'd love to stay, she said. And just like that, the day that was supposed to be just a birthday party became something more. It became the first real conversation between Angela Torres and Cameron Mitchell. It became the beginning of something neither of them had expected but both of them needed. As Angela helped Sophie set the table while Cameron reheated the lasagna, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt like she belonged. Like she was part of something bigger than herself. Like maybe, just maybe, saying yes to a little girl's impossible question had been exactly the right thing to do. Dinner was easier than Angela had expected. Sophie kept the conversation flowing with her endless questions and stories about school. Cameron was quiet but attentive, refilling drinks and making sure everyone had enough food. The lasagna was delicious, rich with cheese and perfectly seasoned. Angela complimented him on it, and for the first time that day she saw his smile reach his eyes. Rachel taught me how to make it, he said softly. It was her grandmother's recipe. She made me promise that I'd teach Sophie how to cook it when she was old enough. That family traditions would continue. That's beautiful, Angela said, meaning it. After dinner, Sophie asked if she could show Angela her favorite movie. Cameron agreed, setting up the television in the living room while Sophie snuggled between them on the couch. The movie was an animated story about a girl who befriends a dragon, and within 20 minutes, Sophie had fallen asleep, her head resting on Angela's shoulder. She does this every time, Cameron whispered, smiling at his daughter. Gets so excited about watching a movie that she falls asleep before it's halfway through. She's exhausted from all the party excitement, Angela said gently, carefully adjusting so Sophie would be more comfortable. Cameron looked at his daughter with such love that Angela felt her heart squeeze. She was so worried about this party. About me being sad on my birthday. I didn't realize how much she notices. How much she worries. Kids see everything, Angela said quietly. They're more perceptive than we give them credit for. She really loves you, you know? Cameron's voice was barely above a whisper. She talks about you all the time. Miss Angela this, Miss Angela that. When she came home and told me she had invited you to the party, I didn't know what to say. Part of me was horrified that she had put you in such an awkward position. But another part of me was hopeful that you might actually come. Angela turned to look at him, careful not to disturb Sophie. Why hopeful? Cameron was quiet for a long moment. Because Sophie hasn't connected with an adult woman since her mother died. Rachel's mom tries, but she's grieving too, and sometimes being with Sophie just makes her sad. My friends' wives are kind, but they have their own families. Sophie needed someone who was just hers. Someone who saw her, not as poor little Sophie who lost her mother, but just as Sophie. She's an amazing kid, Angela said. Smart, kind, full of joy despite everything she's been through. She gets that from Rachel. Cameron's expression became distant. Rachel was the strongest person I ever knew. Even at the end, when the cancer was taking everything from her, she was still thinking about Sophie. Still planning for a future she knew she wouldn't be part of. She made me promise that I wouldn't let grief consume me. That I would find happiness again. That Sophie would grow up in a home filled with love and laughter. It sounds like you're keeping that promise, Angela said gently. Cameron shook his head. I'm trying. But some days it feels impossible. Running the restaurants, taking care of Sophie, trying to be everything she needs. I'm exhausted all the time. I can't remember the last time I did something just for myself. And the worst part is Sophie knows. She sees how tired I am. She hears me crying at night when I think she's asleep. She's 6 years old and she's trying to take care of me. His voice cracked on the last words and Angela saw the tears in his eyes. Without thinking, she reached over and took his hand. You're doing an amazing job, she said firmly. Sophie is happy, healthy, and loved. She's thriving at school. She has friends. She's secure enough to ask for help when she needs it. That's all because of you. Cameron looked down at their joined hands. Thank you for coming today. And thank you for staying. You didn't have to do either of those things, but you did anyway. Sophie was right about you. You do have a lot of love in your heart. Angela felt her cheeks warm. I just want to help. That's all I've ever wanted to do. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the movie play out on the screen while Sophie slept peacefully between them. Angela knew she should probably go home. It was getting late. She had already stayed much longer than she had planned. But she didn't want to leave. She was comfortable here, in this warm house with this grieving father and his sweet daughter. For the first time in months, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Eventually, Cameron gently lifted Sophie into his arms. I should put her to bed. Would you mind waiting? I'd like to walk you to your car. It's dark out. Of course, Angela said. She stood in the living room looking at the family photos that covered the walls. Cameron and Rachel on their wedding day, both so young and full of hope. Baby Sophie in the hospital, tiny and perfect. The three of them at the beach, at birthday parties, at Christmas. A family that had been whole and happy before tragedy struck. Cameron returned a few minutes later. She didn't even wake up. I think having you here today really meant something to her. She felt safe enough to let go. They walked to Angela's car slowly. The night air was cool and stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. At her car, Angela turned to face Cameron. Thank you for letting me be part of today, she said. It was special. Would you? Cameron paused, seeming to gather his courage. Would you like to have coffee sometime? Just the two of us? I know this is probably not what you expected when Sophie invited you today, but I'd really like to get to know you better. Angela felt her heart skip a beat. This was crossing another line. This was moving from school nurse attending a student's party to something more personal. Something that could become complicated. But she thought about Sophie's question. Can you be my mummy? She thought about Cameron's tired eyes and gentle hands. She thought about how right it had felt to sit on that couch with them, like pieces of a puzzle fitting together. I'd like that, she said. I'd like that very much. Cameron's smile was brilliant, genuine, the kind of smile that transformed his entire face. Really? That's great. I'll call you. We can figure out a time that works. Sounds perfect. As Angela drove home that night, she couldn't stop smiling. She had gone to a birthday party expecting to stay for an hour, maybe two. Instead, she had stayed for the entire evening. She had met a man who was kind and broken and trying so hard to be strong for his daughter. She had held a little girl who was searching for love and stability. And she had said yes. To coffee, to getting to know each other, to the possibility of something she hadn't even dared to imagine when she woke up that morning. When she got home, Buttons meowed at her accusingly for being late with dinner. Angela fed her cat, changed into comfortable clothes and called Nicole. So, Nicole answered on the first ring. How was it? It was perfect, Angela said, and then she told her best friend everything. Later, lying in bed, Angela thought about Cameron's words. Sophie needed someone who saw her just as Sophie. But maybe Cameron needed someone who saw him just as Cameron too. Not as the grieving widower, not as the overwhelmed single father, but as a man who was doing his best and deserving of happiness. And maybe, just maybe, Angela needed them too. Needed to feel like her love and care could make a real difference. Needed to be part of a family, even if that family was still healing from deep wounds. She fell asleep thinking about Sophie's smile, Cameron's grateful eyes, and the feeling of belonging that had settled into her heart like it had always meant to be there. 3 days later, Angela's phone rang during her lunch break. She smiled when she saw the name on the screen. Hi, Cameron. Hi, Angela. Is this a good time? His voice sounded nervous, like a teenager calling a girl for the first time. Perfect timing. I'm just eating my sandwich and catching up on paperwork. I was wondering if you'd be free this Saturday for that coffee we talked about? There's a great little cafe downtown, quiet and comfortable. We could talk without being interrupted. Angela checked her mental calendar. Saturday works great. What time? 10 in the morning? That way we'd have plenty of time, but it won't interfere with your whole day. 10 o'clock sounds perfect. There was a pause and then Cameron said, Thank you again for coming to the party. Sophie hasn't stopped talking about you. She asked me this morning if you could come to dinner every night. Angela laughed. That's sweet. What did you tell her? I told her that you have your own life and your own home, but that we'd see you again soon. That seemed to satisfy her. He hesitated. I hope this isn't too forward, but I'm really looking forward to Saturday. So am I, Angela admitted. Saturday morning arrived with bright sunshine and a gentle breeze. Angela changed her outfit 3 times before finally settling on jeans, a blue blouse and comfortable flats. This was coffee, not a formal date. Casual but put together. She hoped. The cafe Cameron had chosen was charming, with exposed brick walls, comfortable chairs, and the rich smell of fresh brewed coffee. Cameron was already there when she arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of him. "I hope you don't mind," he said as she sat down. "I ordered you a vanilla latte. Sophie mentioned you always smell like vanilla cookies, so I figured vanilla might be your favorite." Angela was touched by the thoughtfulness. "It is. Thank you." For a few minutes they made small talk. The weather, the cafe, how Sophie was doing at school. But then Cameron set down his cup and looked at her seriously. "Angela, I want to be honest with you. I haven't done this in a long time." Sat across from a woman and tried to have a conversation that wasn't about Sophie or work. "I'm probably going to be awkward. I might say the wrong thing. But I want you to know that I'm glad you're here." Angela appreciated his honesty. "I haven't done this in a while either. Most of my dates over the past few years have been disasters. Guys who talked about themselves the whole time or who got uncomfortable when I mentioned wanting kids someday. So if we're both awkward, at least we're awkward together." Cameron smiled. "Deal. So tell me about you. How did you end up being a school nurse?" Angela settled back in her chair. "I always loved kids. When I was in high school, I volunteered at a summer camp for children with medical needs. I saw how much difference a caring medical professional could make in their lives. Not just treating their conditions but making them feel safe and valued. I went to nursing school with the intention of working in pediatrics, and I did for a few years at the Children's Hospital. But then a position opened up at Riverside Elementary and I fell in love with it. School nursing is different. You build relationships with the kids. You see them grow and change. You become part of their lives in a way that's hard to do in a hospital setting. Sophie's lucky to have you," Cameron said. "All those kids are." "What about you?" Angela asked. "How did you end up in the restaurant business?" Cameron's expression became animated. "I grew up in my grandfather's kitchen. He owned a small Italian restaurant, nothing fancy, just good food and family atmosphere. I used to stand on a stool next to him while he cooked, and he'd let me stir the sauce or taste the pasta. He taught me that food isn't just about eating. It's about bringing people together, creating memories. When I graduated from culinary school, I worked in high-end restaurants for a few years, but I always knew I wanted to open my own place. Something that felt like home." "And now you have 3 restaurants," Angela said. "That's impressive." Cameron shrugged. "The first one was just me and 2 employees working crazy hours to make ends meet. Rachel was working as a teacher and we barely saw each other. But slowly it grew. People kept coming back. Word spread. When Sophie was born, Rachel encouraged me to open a second location. She said we needed to build something that would last, something Sophie could be proud of." His voice softened. "She never got to see the 3rd restaurant. I opened it 6 months after she died. Sophie and I cut the ribbon together." "I'm sure Rachel would be proud," Angela said gently. "I hope so." Cameron looked out the window for a moment. "You know, after she died, people kept telling me I needed to stay busy. That work would help me get through the grief. So I threw myself into the restaurants. I worked 16-hour days. I came home exhausted and fell into bed. And for a while it helped. I didn't have time to think or feel or remember. But then I realized I was missing Sophie's childhood. I was missing bedtimes and homework and her learning to ride a bike. One day she said, 'Daddy, you're always at work. Don't you like being with me?' And it broke my heart." Angela reached across the table and took his hand. "But you changed. You're there for her now." "I'm trying. I hired a general manager to handle more of the day-to-day operations. I set strict hours when I won't work. Sophie comes first now." He looked at their joined hands. "But it's hard doing it alone. I can handle the practical stuff. Cooking, cleaning, homework help, doctor appointments. But the emotional stuff, the girl stuff, I'm lost. She's going to need someone to teach her about growing up, about relationships, about being a woman. And I can't do that." "You're doing better than you think," Angela assured him. "Sophie is confident and happy. She knows she's loved. Because of people like you," Cameron said. "She lights up when she talks about you. You've given her something I can't give her. A connection with a woman who cares about her." They talked for over 2 hours, the conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Cameron told her about the challenges of running multiple businesses and about his dreams of maybe writing a cookbook someday. Angela shared stories about her family, about her parents who lived 2 hours away, about her younger brother who was a teacher. Do you have other family nearby? Cameron asked. Just my best friend Nicole. She's a nurse at the hospital. We've known each other since nursing school. She's like a sister to me. Angela smiled. She was the one who talked me into going to your party. She said I needed to take a chance on something unexpected. Remind me to thank her, Cameron said. I'm glad she convinced you. As they walked out of the cafe together, Cameron seemed hesitant. Angela, I know this might sound fast, but Sophie and I have dinner together every Sunday. It's our tradition, just the two of us cooking together and talking about our week. But I was wondering if you might want to join us this week? Sophie would love it, and honestly, so would I. Angela didn't even hesitate. I'd love to. Cameron's smile was worth every moment of doubt she'd had. Great. Come around 5? Sophie wants to make homemade pizza. I'll bring dessert, Angela offered. As she drove home, Angela felt lighter than she had in years. The coffee date had been easy and natural. Cameron was kind, thoughtful, and genuine. He wasn't looking for someone to replace Rachel. He was looking for someone to walk forward with him and Sophie into whatever the future held. And Angela wanted to be that person. She wanted to be part of their Sunday dinners and their bedtime stories and their everyday moments. She wanted to help Sophie navigate growing up and help Cameron remember that he deserved happiness too. When she got home, she called her mother. Mom? I think I met someone. Her mother's squeal of delight made Angela laugh. She spent the next hour telling her mother all about Cameron and Sophie, about the birthday party and the coffee date and the Sunday dinner invitation. He sounds wonderful, honey, her mother said. And that little girl needs you. But just remember to protect your heart too. This is a complicated situation. I know, Mom. But sometimes the best things in life are complicated. That night, Angela lay in bed thinking about the future. She didn't know where this was going. Maybe it would become a serious relationship. Maybe they would just become good friends. Maybe it would flame out after a few weeks. But for the first time in years, she was excited about the possibilities. She was excited to see where this path would lead. And she was grateful that a little girl had been brave enough to ask an impossible question, because that question had opened a door to something beautiful. The Sunday dinner was a success. Sophie was thrilled to have Angela there, showing her how to stretch the pizza dough and carefully arrange the toppings. Cameron watched them with a soft smile, occasionally offering guidance but mostly letting them work together. Miss Angela, you're really good at this, Sophie said as they slid the pizzas into the oven. Do you make pizza at home? Sometimes, Angela admitted. But it's more fun with helpers. After dinner, they watched a movie together, and this time Sophie stayed awake through the whole thing, curled up between Angela and Cameron. When it was bedtime, Sophie hugged Angela tight. Thank you for coming, she whispered. I wish you could stay forever. Angela's heart melted. I'll come back soon, I promise. Over the next 2 weeks, Angela found herself thinking about Cameron and Sophie constantly. Cameron called her every evening after Sophie went to bed, and they would talk for hours about everything and nothing. He told her about the challenges at his restaurants, and she shared stories from her day at school. It felt natural, comfortable, like they had known each other for years instead of weeks. At school, Sophie started finding reasons to visit the nurse's office. Nothing major, just small things. A paper cut. A slight headache. A stomach that felt a little funny. Angela knew what was happening. Sophie was creating excuses to see her, to be near her, to have those few minutes of connection. One Tuesday afternoon, Sophie came to the office during lunch, looking nervous. Miss Angela? Can I talk to you about something? Of course, sweetie. Come sit down. Angela patted the chair next to her desk. Sophie sat, swinging her legs and looking at her hands. My friend Emma has a mommy who braids her hair every morning. And yesterday Emma was teaching me a clapping game and she said her mommy taught it to her. And then today at recess, some girls were talking about going shopping with their mommies this weekend. Sophie's voice got quieter. And I realized there are so many things that mommies do that I don't know about because I don't have one. Angela felt tears prick her eyes. Oh, Sophie. I know my daddy does his best. He learned how to do ponytails and he takes me shopping when I need new clothes. But it's not the same. Sophie looked up at Angela with those big brown eyes. Miss Angela, could you teach me things? Like how to braid hair like a mommy would. And maybe other stuff too? Angela's professional boundaries crumbled completely in that moment. Yes, sweetie. I can teach you those things. Sophie's face lit up. Really? You mean it? I mean it. How about during lunch breaks, if you want to come visit, I can teach you. We could start with braiding. Could we start today? Angela laughed. Let me eat my sandwich first and then yes, we can start today. For the next 30 minutes, Angela showed Sophie how to do a simple braid using her own hair as a model. Sophie's small fingers fumbled at first, but she was determined. By the end of lunch, she had managed a messy but recognizable braid. I did it. Sophie jumped up and down. Wait until I show Daddy. Practice makes perfect, Angela said. Come back tomorrow and we'll work on it more. This became their new routine. Almost every day during lunch, Sophie would come to the nurse's office, and Angela would teach her something. How to braid hair, how to tie a pretty bow, how to paint nails carefully. They talked about girl stuff, about friendships and feelings and the little things that mothers usually taught daughters. Angela also started teaching Sophie simple recipes. Cameron had given permission for them to use the small kitchenette in the teacher's lounge, and one Friday afternoon, Angela taught Sophie how to make chocolate chip cookies from scratch. My mommy used to make cookies, Sophie said softly as they stirred the dough. Daddy told me. He said the whole house would smell sweet, and I would try to sneak cookies before they cooled down. That sounds like a wonderful memory, Angela said gently. I don't remember it, Sophie admitted. I was too little. But Daddy remembers for both of us. He tells me stories about Mommy all the time, so I feel like I know her even though I can't remember her myself. That's a gift your daddy is giving you, Angela said. He's keeping her memory alive. Sophie nodded. Do you think it's okay that I like spending time with you? That I want to learn things from you? I don't want Daddy to think I'm forgetting about Mommy. Angela set down the spoon and knelt beside Sophie. Sweetie, loving me doesn't mean you love your mommy any less. Your heart is big enough for lots of love. And I think your mommy would be happy that you have people in your life who care about you and want to help you grow up. Do you think so? I know so. When Cameron came to pick up Sophie that Friday afternoon and saw the container of fresh cookies, his eyes got suspiciously shiny. You two made these? Miss Angela taught me, Sophie said proudly. Can we have some when we get home? Absolutely. Cameron looked at Angela over Sophie's head, mouthing the words, thank you. That evening, Cameron called Angela while Sophie was doing her homework. I don't know how to thank you, he said. Sophie is so happy. She talks about you constantly. The things you're teaching her, the time you spend with her, it means everything. She's a special kid, Angela said. I enjoy our time together. Angela, I need to tell you something. Cameron took a deep breath. I'm falling for you. I know it's fast and I know this situation is complicated. But when I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe again. Like the weight I've been carrying isn't quite so heavy. And Sophie loves you. She trusts you. And I trust you too. Angela felt her heart race. Cameron, you don't have to say anything back. I just needed you to know. Because what we have, whatever this is, it's becoming really important to me. To both of us. It's important to me too, Angela said softly. I think about you and Sophie all the time. When I'm at work, I find myself looking forward to Sophie's lunch visits. When I'm home at night, I look forward to your calls. This has become the best part of my life. Really? Cameron sounded relieved and hopeful. Really? I care about you both so much. They talked for another hour, making plans for the weekend. Cameron wanted to take Angela and Sophie to the park, maybe pack a picnic lunch. Angela suggested they could fly kites. Sophie had mentioned wanting to learn. After they hung up, Angela sat in her apartment thinking about how much her life had changed in just a few weeks. She had gone from lonely and wondering if she would ever have a family to being an integral part of a father and daughter's lives. She was teaching a little girl the things her mother should have taught her. She was helping a grieving widower remember how to smile. And she was falling in love. With both of them. With the whole complicated, beautiful situation. When Nicole called that night for their weekly catch-up, Angela told her everything. So let me get this straight, Nicole said. You're spending lunch breaks braiding hair with a 6-year-old, you're talking to her father every night, and you're going to family picnics on weekends? Yes, Angela said simply. You're in deep, girl. I know. Is that bad? Nicole was quiet for a moment. No, it's not bad. It's actually really beautiful. I've never heard you sound this happy. Just promise me you'll be careful. Not because I think Cameron or Sophie would hurt you intentionally, but because hearts are fragile things, especially ones that are already healing from loss. I promise, Angela said. But Nicole, I think this might be it. I think they might be my family. Then I'm happy for you, Nicole said warmly. You deserve this. That night, Angela dreamed about braiding a little girl's hair for her wedding day, about teaching that same girl how to make chocolate chip cookies for her own children someday. She dreamed about Sunday dinners that never ended and bedtime stories and family traditions. She dreamed about belonging. And for the first time in her life, That dream felt like it might actually come true. The following weeks brought an easy rhythm to their lives. Angela spent almost every evening with Cameron and Sophie, either at their house or at one of Cameron's restaurants. She learned that Cameron was teaching Sophie about business by letting her help with small tasks. Sophie would fold napkins, arrange flowers in vases, and greet regular customers by name. "She needs to understand what I do," Cameron explained one evening while they watched Sophie carefully count out silverware for table settings. "And more than that, she needs to know that hard work is important. That building something meaningful takes dedication." Angela admired his parenting style. He was teaching Sophie values without being preachy. He was showing her through example what it meant to be responsible, kind, and hardworking. One Tuesday afternoon, Cameron called Angela sounding stressed. "I'm sorry to bother you at work," he said quickly, "but I have a crisis. The health inspector just showed up at the downtown restaurant unannounced, and they're finding issues I didn't know existed. Temperature's not quite right in one of the fridges, some documentation missing. I'm worried they're going to shut me down temporarily, and I can't afford that right now. What can I do to help?" Angela asked immediately. "I don't know. I'm just panicked and I needed to hear a friendly voice." "Take a breath," Angela said calmly. "Walk me through what they're finding." Over the next 20 minutes, Angela listened as Cameron explained each issue. Her medical background helped her understand the health codes better than Cameron did. She asked questions about proper temperature storage, about documentation requirements, about cleaning protocols. "Okay," she said when he finished. "None of this is unfixable. The fridge temperature thing can be resolved with a new thermostat and temperature log. The documentation just needs to be organized better. You're going to be okay, Cameron. Just stay calm and show them you're taking their concerns seriously." "Thank you," Cameron said, sounding more composed. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'd figure it out," Angela assured him. "But I'm glad I can help." That evening, Cameron showed up at Angela's apartment with flowers and takeout. "You saved me today," he said when she opened the door. "The inspector was satisfied with my corrective action plan, and we passed the inspection. It's because you helped me think clearly instead of panicking." "I'm just glad everything worked out," Angela said, accepting the flowers with a smile. They ate dinner together on Angela's small couch, Buttons the cat curling up between them. It was comfortable and domestic, like they had been doing this for years instead of weeks. "Can I ask you something?" Cameron said after they had finished eating. "Of course. What made you become a nurse? I know you said you liked helping people, but there's usually a deeper reason. A moment when you knew." Angela was quiet for a moment, thinking. "When I was 8, my grandmother had a heart attack. I remember being so scared, watching the paramedics work on her, seeing my mother crying. But there was one nurse at the hospital who sat with me in the waiting room. She explained everything that was happening in terms I could understand. She let me ask questions. She held my hand when I was scared. My grandmother survived, and I remember thinking that I wanted to be like that nurse someday. I wanted to be the person who made scared kids feel safe." "And you are," Cameron said softly. "You absolutely are." The next weekend, Cameron invited Angela to Sophie's school play. Sophie had a small part as a flower in the spring pageant, and she was incredibly excited about it. "You'll come, right?" Sophie had asked Angela during lunch earlier that week. "You and Daddy together?" "I wouldn't miss it," Angela promised. The night of the play, Angela sat next to Cameron in the crowded auditorium. When Sophie came on stage in her flower costume, both of them clapped enthusiastically. Sophie beamed and waved, clearly thrilled to see them both there. After the play, they took Sophie out for ice cream. She was still in her costume, too excited to change. She sat between Angela and Cameron at the ice cream shop, telling them every detail of backstage preparation and how nervous she had been. "You were perfect," Angela told her. "The best flower on that whole stage. Do you think Mommy saw?" Sophie asked suddenly, looking at her father. Cameron's smile was gentle. "I think she had a front row seat from heaven." Sophie seemed satisfied with this answer. She returned to her ice cream, getting chocolate all over her face. Angela wiped it off with a napkin, and Cameron watched the interaction with soft eyes. Later, after they had dropped Sophie at home and Cameron walked Angela to her car, he pulled her into a hug. "Thank you for being here," he said into her hair. "For all of it. The play, the ice cream, every single day. You've become so important to us." Angela hugged him back, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "You've become important to me too. Both of you." They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other in the parking lot under the stars. It felt right. It felt like coming home. The following week, Cameron's restaurant faced another challenge. His head chef quit suddenly, leaving him short-staffed during their busiest season. Angela could hear the exhaustion in his voice when he called. "I don't know how I'm going to manage," he admitted. "I'm back to working double shifts and I feel like I'm failing Sophie again." "You're not failing anyone," Angela said firmly. "But let me help. I can pick Sophie up from school and bring her to my place until you're done with work. We can do homework together, have dinner, and she can sleep over if needed. It'll be fine." "Angela, that's too much to ask." "You're not asking. I'm offering. And I won't take no for an answer." So that became the new routine. 3 days a week Angela would pick Sophie up from school. They would go to Angela's apartment, do homework at the kitchen table, make dinner together. Sometimes Sophie would fall asleep on Angela's couch while they watched movies, and Cameron would come pick her up late at night, looking exhausted but grateful. "I don't know how to repay you," he said one night, lifting his sleeping daughter into his arms. "You don't need to repay me," Angela said. "This is what people do when they care about each other. They show up. They help. They're there." One evening, while Sophie was coloring at Angela's table, she looked up and said, "Miss Angela, are you going to be my daddy's girlfriend?" Angela froze, not sure how to answer. "Would that be okay with you if I was?" Sophie considered this seriously. "I think so. You make Daddy smile. And you make me happy. And you smell nice and give good hugs." She paused. "Will you still be my friend if you're Daddy's girlfriend?" "Always," Angela promised. "No matter what happens, I'll always be your friend." Sophie nodded, satisfied, and returned to her coloring. But the question stayed with Angela. What were she and Cameron? They spent almost every day together. They talked every night. They held hands. They helped each other. But they hadn't officially defined their relationship. That night, after Sophie was safely home and in bed, Cameron called. "Sophie asked me if you were my girlfriend," Angela said. "I didn't know what to tell her." Cameron was quiet for a moment. "What do you want to tell her?" "The truth," Angela said. "Whatever that is." "Then here's the truth," Cameron said softly. "I want you to be my girlfriend. I want you to be part of our lives officially. I want Sophie to know that the three of us are building something real together. If you want that too." Angela felt tears of happiness fill her eyes. "I want that. I really, really want that." "So we're doing this? Officially?" "Officially," Angela confirmed. After they hung up, Angela sat in her apartment feeling overwhelmed with joy. She had a boyfriend. A kind, wonderful man who made her laugh and valued her help and appreciated everything she did. And she had Sophie, a beautiful little girl who needed her and trusted her. Her life had changed so completely from just a few months ago. She had gone from lonely to loved, from wondering if she would ever have a family to being an integral part of one. When she called Nicole with the news, her friends squealed with delight. "I'm so happy for you," Nicole said. "You deserve this, Angela. You deserve every bit of happiness coming your way." "It feels almost too good to be true," Angela admitted. "Then just enjoy it," Nicole advised. "Stop waiting for something to go wrong and just be happy." Angela decided to take that advice. She was going to be happy. She was going to embrace this new chapter of her life. She was going to love Cameron and Sophie with her whole heart and trust that everything would work out the way it was meant to. Because sometimes, when you said yes to an impossible question, when you showed up with kindness and hope, beautiful things happened. And Angela was living proof of that. Everything was perfect until it wasn't. Angela was in the middle of treating a student's scraped knee when the school secretary rushed into the nurse's office, looking panicked. "Angela, Sophie Mitchell just collapsed in the hallway. The teacher is with her, but they need you right away." Angela's blood went cold. She grabbed her emergency kit and ran, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She found Sophie on the floor outside her classroom, surrounded by worried teachers and students. The little girl was conscious but clearly unwell, her face flushed and her breathing rapid. "Sophie, honey, can you hear me?" Angela knelt beside her, immediately checking her pulse and temperature. The thermometer read 104 degrees. "I don't feel good, Miss Angela," Sophie whispered. "Everything hurts." Angela's training kicked in. High fever, rapid pulse, body aches. She needed to get Sophie to a hospital immediately. "Someone call 911, she said firmly. "And someone call Cameron Mitchell. Tell him to meet us at Mercy Hospital." The ambulance arrived within minutes. Angela climbed in with Sophie, holding the little girl's hand as the paramedics started in 4 and took vitals. Sophie was getting worse by the minute, her fever climbing despite the medications they were giving her. "Hang in there, sweetie," Angela said, brushing Sophie's hair back from her hot forehead. "You're going to be okay. I promise. At the hospital, they rushed Sophie into the emergency room. Angela tried to follow, but a nurse stopped her. Are you family? Angela hesitated. I'm her father's girlfriend. Her school nurse. Please, I need to be with her. I'm sorry, only family in the treatment area. You'll have to wait. Angela wanted to argue, to insist, to push past the nurse and get to Sophie. But she forced herself to be professional. She gave them all the information she had about Sophie's medical history, allergies, and current symptoms. Then she sat in the waiting room, shaking and praying. Cameron burst through the doors 15 minutes later, looking terrified. Where is she? Where's Sophie? They took her back. They wouldn't let me go with her. Angela stood, and Cameron immediately pulled her into his arms. What happened? Angela explained everything, watching as Cameron's face went pale. She was fine this morning, he said. She ate breakfast, she was excited about school. How did this happen so fast? Kids can get sick very quickly, Angela said, trying to stay calm. The doctors here are excellent. They're going to take care of her. They sat together in the waiting room, holding hands, waiting for news. Every minute felt like an hour. Angela prayed harder than she had ever prayed in her life. Please let Sophie be okay. Please don't take this little girl who has already lost so much. Finally, a doctor came out. Mr. Mitchell? Cameron jumped up. How is she? Your daughter has a severe case of strep throat that's developed into scarlet fever. Her fever is dangerously high, but we've started aggressive treatment with antibiotics and fever reducers. She's going to need to stay in the hospital for a few days so we can monitor her. Can I see her? Cameron asked urgently. Yes, follow me. Cameron looked back at Angela. Come with me. Please. This time no one stopped them. They followed the doctor to a pediatric room where Sophie lay in a hospital bed, looking tiny and fragile. Her eyes were closed and she had an IV in her arm. Monitors beeped softly around her. Cameron rushed to her side, taking her hand gently. Sophie? Baby, it's Daddy. Sophie's eyes opened slowly. Daddy? I'm scared. I know, baby. But you're going to be fine. The doctors are taking care of you. Cameron's voice cracked. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Is Miss Angela here too? Angela moved to the other side of the bed. I'm here, sweetie. We're both here. Sophie's small hand reached for Angela's. Don't leave me. I won't, Angela promised, tears streaming down her face. I'm staying right here with you and your daddy. The doctor explained the treatment plan. Sophie would need 4 antibiotics every 6 hours. They would monitor her fever closely. If all went well, she could go home in 3 to 4 days. I'm staying here, Cameron said immediately. I'm not leaving her. Mr. Mitchell, it's going to be a long few days. You should go home, get some rest. I said I'm not leaving. Cameron's voice was firm. My daughter needs me. Angela touched his arm. Cameron, let me help. We can take shifts. You go home, shower, get some sleep. I'll stay with Sophie. Then we'll switch. That way she's never alone and you're not exhausted. Cameron looked like he wanted to argue, but then Sophie spoke up weakly. Daddy, Miss Angela is right. You need to rest too. You can't help me if you get sick. Reluctantly, Cameron agreed. He spent the first shift sitting by Sophie's bed, holding her hand as she drifted in and out of feverish sleep. Angela went to his house, packed him a bag of clothes and toiletries, and brought it back to the hospital along with food. Thank you, Cameron said when she returned. His eyes were red and he looked years older than he had that morning. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd manage, Angela said gently. But I'm glad you don't have to. They fell into a routine. Cameron would stay during the day and Angela would take the night shift. She would sit by Sophie's bed, monitoring the machines, talking to nurses, making sure everything was being done correctly. When Sophie woke up scared in the middle of the night, Angela would hold her hand and sing soft lullabies until she fell back asleep. On the second night, Sophie's fever finally started to come down. Angela was reading to her when Sophie interrupted. Miss Angela? Are you going to marry my daddy? Angela was startled. Why do you ask that, sweetie? Because you're here. In the hospital with me. And you're taking care of both of us. That's what families do, right? They take care of each other? Angela felt tears well up. Yes, that's what families do. So we're a family now? You and me and Daddy? If you want us to be, Angela said softly. Sophie smiled despite her illness. I want that more than anything. When Cameron arrived the next morning to relieve Angela, she told him about the conversation. He looked at her seriously. Did you mean it? What you told Sophie about being a family? Every word, Angela said. Cameron, these past few days being here with you and Sophie, taking care of her, worrying together, hoping together, it made me realize something. I love you both. Not as a school nurse caring for a student. Not as someone helping out. As family. Real family. Cameron pulled her into a tight embrace. I love you too. God, Angela, I love you so much. When Sophie collapsed, when I got that call, all I could think was that I needed you. That we both needed you. You're not just part of our lives. You are our life. They stood in the hospital hallway holding each other, crying tears of relief and love and gratitude. Sophie recovered quickly after that. By the 4th day, her fever was gone and her energy was returning. The doctor cleared her to go home with strict instructions about finishing her antibiotics and plenty of rest. Cameron carried Sophie to the car while Angela followed with bags of medications and discharge papers. Sophie insisted on sitting in the back seat with Angela instead of in her car seat. I want to be close to you, she said simply. At home, Cameron tucked Sophie into her bed while Angela made soup in the kitchen. When Cameron came back downstairs, he wrapped his arms around Angela from behind. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. For staying with her. For taking care of both of us. For being exactly who we needed you to be. I didn't do anything special, Angela said. Yes, you did. You showed up. You stayed. You loved us through the scary parts. Cameron turned her around to face him. Angela, I know we've only been together a few months, but I need you to know something. You're it for me. You're the person I want by my side through everything. The good days and the bad days. The easy times and the hard times. I want to build a life with you. Angela felt her heart swell. I want that too. They kissed then, gentle and sweet, a promise of forever in that simple touch. From upstairs, Sophie's voice called out. Are you two kissing? That's gross. They laughed, breaking apart. We should go check on her, Angela said. Together, Cameron added. The way we do everything now. Together, Angela agreed. As they walked up the stairs to Sophie's room, Angela felt a sense of rightness settle over her. This was her family. This was her place. And no matter what challenges came their way, they would face them together with love, hope, and kindness leading the way. Sophie's recovery took about a week. During that time, Angela practically lived at Cameron's house, helping with meals, medications, and keeping Sophie entertained while she rested. It felt natural, moving through their home like she had always belonged there. One evening, after Sophie had fallen asleep, Cameron asked Angela to join him on the back porch. The night was cool and clear, stars bright overhead. He had set up 2 chairs and poured wine for both of them. This is nice, Angela said, settling into her chair. Quiet. I wanted to talk to you about something, Cameron said, his voice serious but warm. These past few weeks, watching how you've been with Sophie, how you dropped everything to be at the hospital, how you've moved your whole life around to help us, it's made me think a lot about what we have here. Angela's heart started beating faster. What do you mean? Cameron set down his wine glass and turned to face her fully. Angela, before I met you, I was just going through the motions. Getting through each day, trying to be a good father, running my businesses but not really living. I was stuck in grief, unable to move forward. And then Sophie invited you to that birthday party and everything changed. Cameron. Let me finish, he said gently. You brought light back into our lives. You showed Sophie what it means to be cared for by someone who chooses to love her, not just someone who has to because they're family. And you showed me that it's okay to open my heart again. That loving you doesn't mean I'm betraying Rachel's memory. Tears were streaming down Angela's face now. You're not betraying anyone. Rachel would want you to be happy. I know that now. Because of you. Cameron reached over and took her hand. Angela Torres, I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. But I am asking you to officially be part of this family. I'm asking you to move forward with us as a committed couple building a life together. I'm asking if you'll take this journey with Sophie and me wherever it leads. Angela didn't even hesitate. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Cameron pulled her from her chair and into his arms, kissing her deeply. It was a kiss that spoke of promises and futures and love that had grown from an unexpected question into something real and lasting. When they finally pulled apart, Cameron rested his forehead against hers. Thank you for saying yes to Sophie that day. Thank you for coming to the party. Thank you for every single moment since then. Thank you for letting me in, Angela whispered. Thank you for trusting me with your heart and Sophie's heart. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other under the stars, feeling the weight of their decision and the joy of their love. The next morning they told Sophie together. She was eating breakfast when they sat down at the table looking serious, Sophie, we want to talk to you about something important, Cameron began. Sophie's eyes got wide. Are you getting married? Angela laughed. Not yet. But Miss Angela and I are officially together now. As a real couple. Which means she's going to be around a lot more. Is that okay with you? Sophie jumped up from her chair and threw her arms around Angela. It's more than okay. It's perfect. Does this mean I can call you something besides Miss Angela? Can I call you something special? What would you like to call me? Angela asked. Sophie thought about it seriously. How about Miss A? That's still respectful but also special. And later, maybe someday if you and Daddy get married, maybe I could call you something else? Miss A is perfect, Angela said, hugging the little girl tight. And yes, maybe someday we can talk about other names. Over the next few weeks, Angela began integrating more fully into their lives. She still maintained her own apartment, but she spent most nights at Cameron's house. She helped with Sophie's bedtime routine, reading stories and tucking her in. She started cooking meals for them, learning Cameron's favorite recipes and teaching Sophie new ones. Cameron's businesses were doing better too. He had hired a new head chef who was working out wonderfully, and with Angela's support and encouragement, he was able to delegate more responsibilities and trust his managers. You've helped me see that I don't have to do everything myself, he told Angela one evening. That asking for help isn't weakness. It's wisdom. One Saturday, Cameron suggested they go to his downtown restaurant for a special dinner. He had arranged for one of his sous chefs to take over for the evening so he could focus entirely on Angela and Sophie. The restaurant was beautiful, with warm lighting and elegant but comfortable decor. Cameron had reserved a private corner table and had clearly planned the menu carefully. They started with Sophie's favorite appetizer, moved to a main course that Angela had mentioned loving, and finished with a dessert that Cameron had created himself. This is amazing, Angela said, tasting the chocolate creation in front of her. What is this? It's a new recipe I've been working on, Cameron said, watching her carefully. I call it New Beginnings. Because that's what you've given us. A chance to start fresh, to build something new while still honoring what came before. Angela felt tears in her eyes. It's perfect. After dinner, while Sophie was distracted by coloring at the table, Cameron leaned close to Angela. I want you to meet my family. My parents, my sister, everyone. They've been asking about you and I think it's time. I'd love to meet them, Angela said. When? Next weekend? We usually have family dinner on Sundays. It's a big group, kind of chaotic, but they're going to love you. Angela agreed, though she felt nervous. Meeting the family was a big step. What if they didn't approve? What if they thought she was trying to replace Rachel? As if reading her mind, Cameron squeezed her hand. They're going to love you because I love you and Sophie loves you. That's all that matters. The following Sunday, Angela dressed carefully in a nice blue dress and drove to Cameron's parents' house with him and Sophie. The house was large and welcoming, with a big yard and the sound of laughter coming from inside. Cameron's mother, Helen, opened the door and immediately pulled Angela into a warm hug. You must be Angela. Oh, Cameron has told us so much about you. Come in, come in. Cameron's father, Robert, was more reserved but kind, shaking Angela's hand firmly. Cameron's sister, Jennifer, was there with her husband and 2 kids who immediately started playing with Sophie. Dinner was loud and chaotic and wonderful. Everyone talked over each other, passing dishes and telling stories. They asked Angela about her work, her family, her interests. They made her feel welcome without making a big deal about who she was or what her presence meant. At one point, Helen pulled Angela aside in the kitchen. Thank you for making my son smile again, she said quietly. And for taking such good care of my granddaughter. Rachel would be grateful. Angela felt tears prick her eyes. I love them both very much. We can see that, Helen said warmly. And they love you. That's all a mother could ask for. The evening ended with everyone gathering in the living room. Cameron's father played guitar while everyone sang old songs. Sophie sat on Angela's lap, tired and content. Cameron sat beside them, his arm around Angela's shoulders. This was family, Angela thought. Not perfect but real. Full of love and acceptance and hope for the future. On the drive home, Sophie fell asleep in the back seat. Cameron reached over and took Angela's hand. That went well, he said. They're wonderful, Angela agreed. Your mom is so warm and your dad is sweet and Jennifer is hilarious. They loved you. I could tell. Cameron glanced at her. I told you they would. What about Rachel's parents? Angela asked carefully. Do you think they'll be okay with me? Cameron was quiet for a moment. They've known about you for a while. I've kept them updated. I think they'll be happy that Sophie has someone like you in her life. They loved Rachel, but they also want me and Sophie to be happy. They understand that life goes on. The next weekend, Cameron arranged for Angela to meet Rachel's parents, Margaret and Thomas. They came for brunch at Cameron's house, bringing fresh flowers from their garden. Angela was nervous, but the moment Margaret hugged her, she felt the tension ease. Cameron tells us you've been wonderful with Sophie, Margaret said. That means the world to us. They spent hours talking, looking at old photos of Rachel, sharing memories. Margaret told stories about Rachel as a child, about her dreams of being a teacher, about how happy she had been when Sophie was born. She loved being a mother, Thomas said quietly. It was everything she'd always wanted. And she loved Cameron. When she knew she was dying, all she talked about was making sure they would be okay. I wish I could have known her, Angela said honestly. She sounds like an amazing person. She was, Margaret agreed. And I think she would like you very much. You're kind and caring, and you clearly love our granddaughter. Before they left, Margaret pulled Angela aside. Don't feel like you're replacing Rachel. You're not. You're creating something new. And that's exactly what Sophie and Cameron need. Angela hugged her tightly. Thank you for saying that. After they left, Cameron found Angela on the porch, thinking. How are you feeling? He asked. Grateful, Angela said. And loved. And like I really am part of this family now. Cameron pulled her close. You are. You absolutely are. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Cameron gave Angela a key to his house. I want you to feel like this is your home too, he said. You're here all the time anyway. Make it official. Angela took the key, feeling the weight of what it represented. This wasn't just access to a house. It was full integration into their lives. It was trust and commitment and love. Thank you, she said softly. For everything. For letting me love you both. Thank you for choosing us, Cameron replied. As Angela drove home that night, the key to Cameron's house in her pocket, she thought about how far they had all come. From a little girl's desperate question to a family built on hope and kindness and choosing each other every single day. And the best part? This was just the beginning. Fall turned into winter, and Angela's life had completely transformed. She now split her time between her apartment and Cameron's house, though she spent most of her nights with them. Her toothbrush had a permanent spot in their bathroom. Her clothes hung in Cameron's closet. Her coffee mug had its own place in the kitchen cabinet. Sophie started second grade, and Angela was there for the first day of school taking pictures alongside Cameron. They attended parent-teacher conferences together. When Sophie's class had a fall festival, both of them volunteered, running the ring toss booth side by side. You two make a great team, Sophie's teacher commented. Sophie is so lucky to have both of you so involved. Angela's parents came to visit for Thanksgiving. Her mother, Maria, was warm and loving, immediately taking to Cameron and Sophie. Her father, Carlos, was more cautious at first, protective of his daughter. But by the end of the weekend, Angela found him teaching Sophie how to play chess while giving Cameron advice about expanding his restaurant business. I like him, Carlos told Angela privately. He's a good man. He works hard, he loves his daughter, and he treats you well. That's all a father can ask for. I love him, Papa, Angela said. I know, Mija. I can see it in your eyes. Cameron's restaurants were thriving. With Angela's encouragement, he had introduced a new healthy menu option that was becoming popular with families and the lunch crowd. He started a meal prep service for busy parents, using his culinary skills to make nutritious food accessible. This was your idea, he told Angela one evening as they reviewed the successful numbers. You saw a need and helped me fill it. We're a good team, Angela agreed. She introduced Cameron to her best friend Nicole properly at a dinner party Angela hosted at her apartment. Nicole and Cameron hit it off immediately, bonding over their mutual love of cooking and their shared goal of taking care of Angela. She needs people who appreciate her, Nicole told Cameron. She gives so much to everyone else that she sometimes forgets to save anything for herself. I know, Cameron said seriously. That's why I try to take care of her as much as she takes care of us. Nicole pulled Angela aside later. He's perfect for you. Don't let this one get away. I don't plan to, Angela said with a smile. As Christmas approached, the three of them decorated Cameron's house together. Sophie was in charge of the tree, carefully hanging each ornament while explaining its significance. Many of them had belonged to Rachel, and Sophie shared memories her father had told her about each one. This one is from Mommy's first Christmas with Daddy, Sophie said, holding up a silver bell. And this one is from the year I was born. And this one. She paused, looking at a handmade ornament. Mommy made this the last Christmas she was with us. Angela's eyes filled with tears. Cameron moved to stand beside his daughter, putting a hand on her shoulder. Your mommy would love this tree, he said gently. She always made Christmas so special. Can we hang one for Missa too? Sophie asked. So she's part of our Christmas? I'd like that, Angela said softly. They went shopping together and Sophie picked out a beautiful red ornament with Angela's name on it. When they hung it on the tree right next to the one Rachel had made, it felt right. Not like Angela was replacing Rachel, but like she was being woven into the family's story. Christmas morning was magical. Sophie woke them up at 6, bouncing with excitement. They opened presents in their pajamas, drinking hot chocolate and listening to Christmas music. Cameron had gotten Angela a beautiful necklace with a small heart pendant. For the heart you've given us, he said as he fastened it around her neck. Angela had gotten him a leather journal for writing down his recipes and restaurant ideas. For Sophie, she had bought art supplies and a book about famous women in history. But the best present came from Sophie. She handed Angela a wrapped package, looking nervous. Inside was a homemade card that read, "To Miss A, the best almost mommy ever. Love, Sophie." Attached to it was a hand-drawn picture of the three of them holding hands in front of a house. Angela started crying. Sophie, this is the most beautiful present I've ever received. Do you really like it? Sophie asked anxiously. I love it more than anything, Angela assured her, pulling the little girl into a tight hug. That evening, while Sophie was playing with her new toys, Cameron pulled Angela into the kitchen. I have one more present for you, he said, looking nervous. Cameron, you already gave me the necklace. You didn't need to. This isn't from me. It's from Rachel. He pulled out a small box from a cabinet. Before she died, Rachel wrote letters to Sophie to be opened on important birthdays and occasions. But she also wrote one letter to whoever I ended up with. She wanted to make sure that person knew how grateful she was. Angela's hands were shaking as she took the envelope from the box. It was addressed simply, to the woman who loves my family. Inside, in neat handwriting, was a letter. Dear friend, if you're reading this, it means Cameron has found happiness again. It means someone has come into his and Sophie's life who makes them smile. It means my prayers have been answered. I won't be there to see Sophie grow up. I won't get to teach her how to braid her hair or talk to her about boys or help her pick out her prom dress. But I hope you will. I hope you'll love her like she's your own and help guide her into becoming the amazing woman I know she'll be. Cameron is the best man I've ever known. He's kind and loyal and hardworking. But he's also stubborn about asking for help. Please be patient with him. Please remind him that it's okay to not be strong all the time. Please love him on the days when he's missing me. I'm not threatened by you. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for loving my family. Thank you for showing up when they needed someone. Thank you for being brave enough to step into a complicated situation and make it work. Love them well. That's all I ask. With deep gratitude, Rachel. Angela was sobbing by the time she finished reading. Cameron wrapped his arms around her, crying too. She knew, Angela whispered. She knew someone would come. She had faith, Cameron said. Faith that love would find a way. And it did. You did. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Cameron and Angela sat together on the couch, holding hands and watching the Christmas tree lights twinkle. I want to talk about the future, Cameron said. About where we go from here. Angela's heart started racing. Okay. I know it's only been a few months, and I know we've moved fast. But Angela, you're not just my girlfriend. You're my partner. You're Sophie's other parent in every way that matters. Your family. I feel the same way, Angela said. I'm not proposing tonight, Cameron continued. But I want you to know that's where I see this going. Marriage. A life together. You officially becoming Sophie's mother. I want all of it with you. I want that too, Angela said, tears streaming down her face. I want to marry you. I want to be Sophie's mother. I want to build a life with both of you. Cameron kissed her deeply. Then let's do it. Not right this second, but soon. Let's make this official in every way. As Angela lay in bed that night, in the room that had become hers, in the house that felt like home, she thought about how miraculous life could be. 6 months ago, she had been alone, wondering if she would ever have a family. Now she had Cameron and Sophie, two people who loved her as much as she loved them. She thought about Rachel's letter, about the generosity it took to write those words. About a woman who had loved her family so much that even in death, she was still taking care of them. And Angela made a silent promise to Rachel. I'll love them well. I'll honor what you built. I'll help Sophie remember you while also helping her move forward. I'll take care of Cameron's heart the way you would want me to." In the room next door, she could hear Cameron's gentle breathing. Down the hall, Sophie slept peacefully. This was her family now. This was her life. And it was more beautiful than anything she could have imagined when a little girl had asked her an impossible question all those months ago. Winter melted into spring, and Angela's life continued to deepen with Cameron and Sophie. She had gradually moved more of her belongings to Cameron's house until one day she realized she hadn't slept in her own apartment in over a month. "Why are you keeping it?" Nicole asked during one of their coffee dates. "You're basically living with them full-time." "I guess I'm scared," Angela admitted. "What if something goes wrong? What if they decide they don't want me anymore? At least I have a place to go back to." Nicole reached across the table and took her hand. "Angela, that man looks at you like you hung the moon. And Sophie adores you. Nothing is going to go wrong. But you need to let yourself fully commit. Give up the safety net and jump in with both feet." Angela knew her friend was right. That evening she talked to Cameron about it. "I want to give up my apartment," she told him. "I want to officially move in here. If that's okay with you and Sophie." Cameron's face lit up. "Are you serious?" "Angela, I've been hoping you'd say that for months. This is your home. It's been your home since the first time Sophie dragged you upstairs to see her stuffed animals." They told Sophie together over dinner. The little girl jumped up and ran around the table, squealing with joy. "This is the best news ever. Now we're a real family. Can we redecorate the guest room to be your room too? Can we paint it a color you like? Can we—" "Slow down," Cameron laughed. "Yes to all of that. This is Miss A's house too now." Over the next few weeks they transformed the space. Angela moved her furniture, her books, her pictures. Sophie helped her arrange everything, giving her opinion on where things should go. Cameron cleared out half his closet and half his dresser, making room for Angela's clothes. "It feels right seeing your stuff mixed with mine," he said one evening, watching her hang up her work scrubs next to his chef's jackets. Spring brought the school carnival, an annual event that Riverside Elementary held to raise money for programs and supplies. Angela, as school nurse, was heavily involved in the planning. Cameron donated food from his restaurants, and Sophie was excited to help run the ring toss booth. What Angela didn't know was that Cameron and Sophie had been planning something special. They had been whispering together for weeks, falling silent whenever Angela came near. Nicole was in on it too, though she refused to tell Angela anything when pressed. "You'll find out soon enough," Nicole said with a mysterious smile. "Just trust me when I say you're going to love it." The day of the carnival was perfect, warm and sunny with a gentle breeze. The school grounds were filled with booths, games, and laughter. Angela spent the morning running around, making sure everything was running smoothly and handling minor first aid needs. Cameron and Sophie were at their booth, but Angela noticed they kept looking at each other and giggling. Something was definitely going on. Around 2 in the afternoon, the school principal, Mrs. Peterson, took the microphone on the main stage. "Can I have everyone's attention, please? We have a very special moment planned, and we need Miss Angela Torres to come up to the stage." Angela froze. What was happening? Nicole appeared at her elbow, gently guiding her toward the stage. The crowd parted, and Angela saw Cameron and Sophie standing there, both of them beaming. Her heart started pounding as she climbed the steps. Sophie was holding something behind her back, bouncing with barely contained excitement. Cameron took the microphone, his hand shaking slightly. "Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Cameron Mitchell, Sophie's dad. And this beautiful woman here is Angela Torres, who has changed our lives in more ways than I can count." Angela's eyes filled with tears. She knew what was coming, but she couldn't quite believe it. 6 months ago, my daughter asked Miss Angela a question. She asked if she would come to my birthday party and be her mommy for the day. It was an innocent request from a child who was missing something vital in her life. But Angela said yes. She showed up not just that day but every day since. Cameron handed the microphone to Sophie, who stepped forward confidently. "Miss A," Sophie said clearly into the microphone, "you taught me how to braid hair and make cookies. You stayed with me in the hospital when I was sick. You read me stories and helped me with homework and make me feel safe. You love my daddy and you love me. You're the best almost mommy anyone could ask for." Sophie pulled her hand from behind her back, revealing a small blue velvet box. Cameron took back the microphone as Sophie opened the box, showing a beautiful ring. "Angela Torres, you've shown us what it means to choose love every day. You've honored Rachel's memory while building something new with us. You've been patient with my grief, kind to my daughter, and loving to me in ways I didn't think were possible anymore. He took the ring from Sophie and got down on one knee. The entire carnival had gone silent. Every parent, every teacher, every child was watching this moment. Angela, will you marry me? Will you officially become Sophie's mother and my wife? Will you keep saying yes to us for the rest of our lives? Angela was crying so hard she could barely see. But she didn't hesitate. Yes. Yes, of course I'll marry you. The crowd erupted in cheers as Cameron slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her. Sophie jumped between them, wrapping her arms around both of them. We're really a family now, Sophie shouted. A forever family. Nicole appeared with tissues, crying just as hard as Angela. I told you it would be worth it, she sobbed. I told you. The rest of the carnival was a blur of congratulations and hugs. Angela's hand felt heavy with the weight of the ring, but it was a good weight. A weight that meant commitment and future and love. That evening, just the three of them, they sat in their living room and talked about the future. Cameron and Angela decided on a simple wedding in 3 months. Sophie would be the flower girl, of course. They would get married in the garden behind Cameron's restaurant, surrounded by family and friends. Can I call you Mom after the wedding? Sophie asked Angela. Or is that too soon? I don't want to forget my birth, Mommy, but I want you to be my mommy too. Angela pulled Sophie onto her lap. You can call me whatever feels right to you. Mom, Mama, Miss A. Angela. Whatever name you choose, I'll be honored. And you'll never forget your birth, Mommy. She'll always be your first mother. I'm just lucky enough to be your second one. I like Mom A, Sophie decided. Like Mom and Missa together. That way it's special just for us. Mom A is perfect, Angela agreed, hugging her tight. Over the next 3 months, they planned a wedding that was small but meaningful. Rachel's parents were invited and accepted graciously, telling Angela they were thrilled that Sophie was gaining a mother figure. Angela's family came from out of state, her mother immediately bonding with Sophie over wedding planning. The night before the wedding, Angela's mother found her sitting in her old childhood bedroom at her parents' house, where she was staying according to tradition. Having second thoughts? Maria asked gently. No, Angela said immediately. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Then why do you look worried? Angela was quiet for a moment. I keep thinking about Rachel. About how she should be the one marrying Cameron. How Sophie should have her real mother. I feel like I'm taking something that wasn't meant for me. Maria sat beside her daughter and took her hand. Mija, love isn't a finite resource. It doesn't run out. Sophie loving you doesn't mean she loves Rachel less. Cameron choosing you doesn't dishonor Rachel's memory. You're not taking anything from anyone. You're giving them a chance to be happy again. And that's a gift. How do I live up to what Rachel was? Angela asked. You don't, Maria said simply. You don't try to be Rachel. You be Angela. You be yourself. That's who Cameron fell in love with. That's who Sophie chose. Just be you and that will be more than enough. The wedding day arrived warm and perfect. The garden at Cameron's restaurant had been transformed with white chairs and flowers. A simple arch stood at the end of the aisle, covered in roses. Angela wore a simple white dress, elegant but not fussy. Sophie wore a green dress with a flower crown. Cameron wore a navy suit that made his gray eyes stand out. As Angela walked down the aisle on her father's arm, she saw Cameron's face. He was crying, openly and unashamedly, watching her come to him. Sophie stood beside him, holding a small bouquet and beaming. The ceremony was short and sweet. They had written their own vows. Cameron went first. Angela, you came into our lives when we needed you most. You showed us that healing is possible, that love can grow from the most unexpected places. You've loved my daughter like she's your own. You've loved me despite my broken pieces. You've shown me that opening my heart again doesn't mean letting go of the past. It means making room for the future. I promise to love you, honor you, and choose you every day for the rest of my life. Then it was Angela's turn. Cameron, when Sophie asked me to come to your birthday party, I had no idea I was stepping into my future. But from that first day, you and Sophie have been teaching me what family really means. It's not just blood. It's showing up. It's choosing each other. It's building something together one day at a time. I promise to love you both, to honor Rachel's memory, and to help create a home filled with love, laughter, and hope. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Sophie cheered louder than anyone. That's my Mom A, she shouted. She's officially my mommy now. The reception was filled with joy. Cameron's mother gave a toast about how happy she was to welcome Angela officially into the family. Rachel's mother stood and spoke about how grateful she was that Sophie had found someone to love her the way Rachel would have wanted. But the most touching moment came when Sophie stood up, holding a microphone with Cameron's help. "I want to say something," she announced to the room. "When my mommy Rachel went to heaven, I was really sad. My daddy was sad too. We were lonely and we missed her so much. But then I met Miss Angela and I knew she could help us. So I asked her to come to Daddy's party. And she said yes. She kept saying yes to us over and over again. And now she's my Mame forever. So I just want to say thank you, Mame, for answering my question. Thank you for being my mommy when I needed one. Thank you for making my daddy smile. And thank you for loving us." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Angela pulled Sophie into a tight hug as everyone applauded. The party continued late into the evening. Angela danced with Cameron, with her father, with Cameron's father. She helped Sophie dance on top of Cameron's feet. She laughed with Nicole and talked with Rachel's parents and felt surrounded by love from every direction. As the night wound down and guests began to leave, the three of them, Cameron, Angela, and Sophie, stood together in the garden, looking at the fairy lights strung overhead. "This is the happiest day of my life," Sophie said. "Even better than Christmas." "Mine too," Angela agreed. "Mine three," Cameron added, pulling them both close. They stood like that for a long time, a family officially bound by love and commitment. A family that had been built from grief and hope, from a child's brave question and an adult's willingness to say yes. As they finally headed home that night, Angela looked at the ring on her finger, at the sleeping child in the back seat, at the man beside her who was now her husband. She thought about the journey that had brought them here. How a simple question had changed everything. "My daddy is so lonely. Can you be my mummy at his birthday party?" Such a small question. Such an impossible request. But Angela had said yes. And that yes had led to this moment, to this family, to this beautiful, complicated, perfect life. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is answer an unexpected question with hope in your heart. Sometimes the best families are built from broken pieces and healing hearts. Sometimes love finds you in the most unlikely places. And sometimes when a little girl asks you to show up, you just have to trust that saying yes will lead somewhere beautiful. Because it did. Oh, how it did.